Well, Richie, thanks for joining us. First of all, just reflections on last weekend, 3-0 home win over Port Vale. You must have come away pretty pleased.
Yeah, like obviously you were at the time of the season now where the result becomes probably more important than the performance, but I thought the first 20 minutes was probably as good as we've been for a good few weeks. Lost our way, a bit self-inflicted really, for 10 or 15 minutes, and made it a bit more difficult than it should have been. And then obviously finished the first half really well, and then I thought the second half we managed it really well and probably could have gone on and got up a couple more, but would we have taken a 3-0 win at 5-3? I think everybody would have done, and I think we have to not underestimate how good a win that is, because you come back in and you see that most of the other teams in the top 5 have won, but probably by a goal or maybe 2. So to have a relatively decent afternoon, I thought it was a good win, really.
Was it important just to get that win again after what happened in the previous 2 games?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was important anyway, because obviously you've got to get back on the horse very quickly, and sometimes when you've lost, to get a game within 3 or 4 days is important. And but yeah, it was. We didn't want that run to go on any further. I think that was the first time we'd lost 2 in a row all season. So we've always, while we've all been together as a group of staff, try and make a conscious effort not to lose 2 games in a row. And unfortunately that happened. So it was important that we got 3 points back on the board, and the lads gained some confidence from it.
Rare full week on the training ground this week as well. How important is that, just to sort of have a bit more time to reinforce messages, things like that?
Yeah, and also obviously next week we play again on the Tuesday, don't we? So we're back to that again, and then in a couple of weeks' time it's Easter, where it all ends up a bit all over the place again. So yeah, it was important that we don't get. When you play Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, you're predominantly working on the tactics that have just previously happened and the tactics that's going to happen in the game coming up. We very rarely get opportunities to work on individuals or to units, or and just try and make an actual unit stronger in terms of this is what we expect, or actually just practicing something. So yeah, that's been quite useful for a couple of days, and also just to give the lads a little bit of a mental downtime from. You're always 48 hours away from a game, at the moment, or it seems that way. So for them then just to switch off from actual, the vigours of it's funny. I spoke to Conor Uran a few weeks ago when we gave him a rest, and he talked about on the Friday night that his Friday night was just a bit more enjoyable. He talked about how, you start preparing when you leave the training ground on a Friday lunchtime. And I remember them sort of times myself where you are playing every week, your brain never turns off. And Conor just said he sort of really enjoyed his Friday evening off the back of the fact that he could just turn his brain off, really. So I think people underestimate the importance and the amount of energy that gets used thinking about what's coming up in the next 48 hours. So it's been nice for them to have that rest as well.
So 10 games to go. You're in 3rd place in the table. Great chance to achieve something this season. How are you feeling about what's to come? Yeah, excited about what's to come? Excited.
Obviously, we all know that every point's going to be important now when you get when you're in this type of running. And myself and Andy went to the Bolton-Barnsley game on Tuesday night, and really weird because you're watching it going, I'm not sure what the best result for us is, and you look at Peterborough obviously got a really good result, so they're now back in the running as well, having had a bit of a wobble. So I think there's a lot of twists and turns to come, and what we can do is look after ourselves. And I think, is it 10 games to go, I think, in 7 weeks or 8 weeks or something. So looking forward to it. Like I said, there'll be some ups and downs. There'll be times we'll come from the game and probably be a little bit disappointed, but there'll be times we'll come away and think that we're on our way. So, but one thing I'm pretty certain is I think it might go to the last day.
Yeah, the way it's going, it certainly looks like that. In terms of all the hard yards that you're putting over pre-season, in terms of the camaraderie, the mentality, is this where, this is where you want to see it, all those hard yards you put in?
Yeah, well, I think when people talk about how hard pre-season is, you normally get the benefits of that later on. You don't get the benefits of that in September, October, and coincidentally, our teams have normally been relatively successful through December, January, February, March, when the fitness and the ability to go back-to-back games kicks in. And obviously on our previous run a few weeks ago, that seemed like that was going to have a bit of an effect. And then obviously now we talk about a common goal. We talk about us all turning up on the 1st of July or whenever it was, and what the common goal was, and everybody playing their part. And that is no more important than now, really, when we talk to some of the lads. You might play 1 minute, you might play 90 minutes, you might come on at half time, but every point's going to be vital. So it's a matter now of ensuring that everybody knows what their role is, but ensuring that whatever minute they play, and whether that's coming on in the 88th minute, it's equally as important as the people who start the game, people who are rested because we might need some fresh legs, people buying into that sort of stuff. So once the window was shut, we spoke to him and said, look, you're here now, you're part of the run-in, and everybody will play a part.
You've been in this position before as management team, you've been successful as well. Do you change anything when it gets to the run-in, or is it just about maintaining now and just keeping that repetition of what you've been doing all season?
We will certainly be probably training less.
But is that natural because I guess you put so much in and you want them fresh?
Yeah, so the numbers will probably come down a little bit in terms of training. Obviously, you also have to be aware of the fact now that anybody picks up a little injury for 3 or 4 weeks, it's pretty much nearly season over. So, we have to be aware of that. And obviously the window's shut, so there'll be no more people coming in. And in fairness, they all pretty much match fit. There's 1 or 2 who have been on the sidelines for a couple of weeks who might need the odd topping up, but realistically now it's about keeping them sharp and keeping their brain sharp, keeping them tactically sharp, ensuring that the units work well together, but making sure they're fresh. But like I say, we've got 3 games in a week. Next thing you know, we've spoke to the lads about how they're different aspects of the season breakdown. Then next thing you know, by the time you're in single figures. Well, after the weekend we are in single figures. Next thing you know, 6 days later, you're pretty much down to nearly 5. So they come pretty quick, and and it'll be over before we know it. So it is a matter of ensuring that we just monitor them and make sure that they're ready for the game, as opposed to being able to train harder.
So you're off to Bristol Rovers this weekend. What are you expecting from them?
I had a decent run over the last couple of weeks in terms of, obviously they changed their manager, whatever it was, 2-3 months ago. Always a difficult place to go. It's a real, it's a stadium I really enjoy going to in terms of, it's, could I say old school? It's like the ones you see people standing up, you see people obviously real passionate, as opposed to some of the newer stadiums that are sometimes a little bit soulless, really. But a really tough place to go, and they are one of the clubs. I'm sure somebody will say, well, they can't go up, they can't go down, but you've always got something to play for. Players always have something to play for. So, and sometimes if that is the case, then they play with an element of freedom. So people do things that normally they wouldn't do because they're not under that kind of pressure. So, but some good players, tough game, and obviously on the road over the previous few months we've been relatively successful. We need to try and continue that.
Can you take much from the game when you played them in November, where you won late on, because they're in between managers, and I think Andy Mangan was in charge? Yeah,
no, not really. I think there's been a few changes. Obviously, they've a couple have gone and a couple have come in. So, and obviously a manager's changed. So, not really. I mean, in fairness, if you'd have not told me the game, I probably wouldn't have remembered it anyway. It was that long ago. So, not really. And they've even changed shape a couple of times. So. I think whatever that works out at 4 months ago or something, there's a lot of football being played since then.
Just lastly, how's the squad looking?
Yeah, okay. Fozzie is going to do some part of the training today, so it'd be good to have him back. He's been working really hard with the physios. We've seen him doing loads of running, so we will be nursing him back in terms of integrating him with certain aspects of the training, but obviously trying to make sure that he's an important part of what we're going to be doing over the next 2 months, and who knows, maybe he might score the winner, then be a good end to the season for him that gets us promoted. But yeah, he'll be important, so we need to keep him fresh as well.